Hey, what's up, guys? I'm out here throwing some ball with my dad, and I can't tell you how much fun this is, how many memories are right here, how many hours we spent throwing ball back and forth on this very road. So cool to think about. But I thought I'd use this as a setting to introduce or talk about Joseph and him being treated unfairly. You see, years ago when I played Little League Baseball, one year I was voted for the All-Star team, which wasn't the norm. I was pretty excited about that. But because the coach that year really wanted his son to go instead of me, he swapped it out. He was going to send his son instead of me, even though they had voted for me to go. And basically, I was being treated unfairly because of the coach's prejudice for his own son. But then it came to light what he had done, and him and my dad had a nice little talk, and my dad took care of it, and I got to play All-Stars that year. And it was a lot of fun and a big blessing in my life. But the point is, of course, I was treated unfairly simply because of the prejudice of the coach. And we can connect that to Joseph's life pretty easy, because Joseph was treated unfairly because of the prejudice of his brothers against him. And of course, they hated Joseph because their father favored Joseph. Joseph was born to Jacob in his old age. He's the son of Rachel. So of course, he favored his son Joseph, gave him the coat of many colors, as you know. And of course, the brothers didn't like that. And I imagine if I was one of his brothers, I wouldn't like that either. And so they didn't like him much. And then Joseph had these dreams that didn't really help anything as far as them liking him, because it showed that his brothers would one day bow down to him, which we know is true, but they didn't know that at the time, and they didn't like the dreams. The first dream was him, Joseph, and his brothers are out in the field, and they are collecting their sheaves of grain, these big bundles of grain, and as they're doing so, the 11 sheaves of grain of his brothers bow down to Joseph's sheaf, and he tells them a dream, and they're like, wait a minute, are you telling me that you think you will rule over us, we'll bow down to you one day? And then he has another dream. This time the sun, moon, and 11 stars bow down to Joseph. And again, they're angry. Will we bow down to you? And his father's a little concerned about it as well. And so they don't like him at all. And then so those are the dreams he has. And the interpretations were one day they would bow before Joseph, as we know they will later on. And we'll see that. But they didn't know that at the time. And then fast forward just a little bit down the road, his brothers are taking care of the flocks, and they're in a place called Dothan. And as they're there in Dothan, Jacob sends Joseph to go check on him. And as he goes, the brothers see Joseph coming, and they're like, okay, let's kill Joseph, and then we'll see what happens with his dreams. We'll see if we actually bow down to him. So they got this plan going on, and as he's coming, Reuben decides, no, let's don't kill him, let's just throw him in the pit, teach him a lesson, more or less, probably. And so that's what they do. They don't kill him immediately. And then Judah gets the idea, because he loves his brother so much, you know what? Instead of killing him, let's just sell him into slavery. We can't shed the blood of our brother. And that's what they do. The Midianites were making their way to Egypt, and they go with the Midianites, and they sell their brother to the Midianites, who then take Joseph down to Egypt, who's sold into slavery, ends up in the house of Potiphar. And that's how Joseph ends up there in Egypt and in Potiphar's house. And we'll see again God's provision of Joseph there, and also some mistreatment in Potiphar's house. But the point is, with this video, Joseph is definitely treated unfairly. And but I think there's a large point we need to keep aware of, and that is, even in the midst of the unfair treatment of Joseph, God is in control. All of this is by God's plan. Even the dreams are foreshadowing what God will do. You see, even though he's treated unfairly, he ends up in Egypt. And of course, as we'll see later on, because he is there in Egypt, he'll come to power by God's providence. As he comes to power, he stores grain for the coming famine, provides food for many people, including his family, who would then move to Egypt and grow to become a great nation. From that nation comes the Messiah. And God is preserving all of this by getting Joseph over to Egypt. You see, God is using all of this for his glory. And I hope that encourages us as we look at our lives. When there are things that are unfair, if life is not going our way, God is still in control. He is still sovereign, and he can use any of our circumstances to his glory. I'm not calling the circumstances themselves good, but he can use them for his glory if we will simply trust him and obey him no matter what is going on. God can use it for his glory and our good. And so I pray we take a note from that in our own lives, be encouraged by that, and I hope that's a blessing to you in this lesson. And I'd also encourage you, get out, throw some ball with your son, with your daughter, with your dad, your mom, uncle, whoever. It is so much fun. You guys have a wonderful day.